Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show with certified financial fiduciary, Tim Wood.
Let's sit down and make an actual plan, and we have definitely got to factor in that retirement danger zone. I wish to God someone had sat down and done that with my dad. We wish we would have known about these things.
Tim is a retirement and income planning expert, best-selling author, and the founder of SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Tim focuses on wealth management, retirement income, tax and long-term care planning, and so much more.
Today is your opportunity to build the tomorrow you want. You've got an 87% chance of success. Well, son, that's a 13% chance of failure.
And now, the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood.
Welcome into this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. Alongside Tim Wood, he's the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name is Kevin McAlpin. Hope you are having a fantastic day. And of course, Tim and I, we really appreciate all of our loyal listeners. You make this show a part of your routine each and every week. We certainly are glad to have you with us once again here today. But first things first, we do say hello to the star of the show, the man of the hour, and the most handsome man in the room, Mr. Tim Wood. And Tim, it's always a pleasure, my friend. How are we doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, brother. Hope you're doing well, and hope everyone listening is doing well. Had a good week. Looking forward to a good weekend, and life is going well for everyone, because obviously we've got tons of stuff going on the planet that can steal our peace. So I hope all the listeners are able to find their peace amid all the craziness going on.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot happening in the world, whether it's in Washington, whether it's on Wall Street. And Tim, isn't this a great example what we're seeing in the news cycle here lately? Whether you're looking at the markets or whether you're looking at conflict overseas, isn't this a great reason why so many listeners out there need to sit down with somebody like yourself to have a plan for your finances in place, where you're not constantly having to check the news, check the tickers, be up late at night, really, stressing over things that are, let's be honest, completely out of our control.
100%. Yes. That, and I mean, everything that you just said, yes, 100% I agree with. But it reminds me, I just did an interview with one of the directors for Alzheimer's Tennessee. You know that, Kevin.
Yeah.
And we're going to have, for all the listeners, we're going to have that to you here in a couple weeks. We just got to get the production done and everything. We'll have that to you soon to listen to. But my point being, same thing. I mean, we were talking about what's some of the biggest challenges you see with people with Alzheimer's, and her response almost immediately was financial.
Yeah.
Because people, for example, like you're talking about in Wall Street, they think, I'm going to keep playing the market. Okay, well, especially with things right now, if you're going to do that, man, you need to be on top of it, because there's days where it goes way down and you may need to pull out, but then as soon as it shoots back up, you need to go back in. I mean, can you play that game? Yes, you can. But what happens if you get Alzheimer's or dementia? And more than 5 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's, more than 120 just here in my home, 120,000 here in my home state of Tennessee. And it's the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. So make a plan. And that's why we interviewed her. Everyone stay tuned. Y'all are going to love the interview. It's fantastic. But same thing. Yeah. I mean, with all the stuff going on and all the news cycles, and what if you can't manage your stuff anymore?
Right.
I mean, you need something that's going to pay you a guaranteed income. If we're talking about the market, you need something based on your age that, if the market goes off a cliff, you're not going to lose everything you worked your entire life to gain. Because that's what we're talking about. I mean, I've got clients now in 2026 that just recently recovered from 08 and 09. Because of that market math. If the market goes down 50%, you need 100% to get back to even, just to get to where you were.
Yeah.
And then if you actually factor in inflation and, what money can buy, you still actually aren't there.
Yeah.
Because, $100,000 in 09 is not $100,000 today.
No.
Not even close.
No doubt. Yeah, and it all starts with one phone call to Tim Wood and his team at Safe Money Retirement. If you have been stressed, if you have been nervous, if you're approaching retirement and you're curious how the news of the last few weeks and months could affect you as you move forward into retirement, get on his calendar today, folks. There's no cost. There's no obligation. 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233. Online at SafeMoneyRetirement.com. That's SafeMoneyRetirement.com. And Tim, you mentioned something, inflation, just a couple of moments ago. And I want to sort of touch on that for a few moments if we can. Obviously, we know there's been a lot of talk about inflation over the last 3, 4, 5 years. And the question a lot of folks have when it gets to retirement, will your spending decline as you reach that next chapter of life? Well, you'd probably say no way, right? But I want you to listen to what financial advisor Dana Unspach recently told Finstream TV.
Right now, where everybody's talking about the price increases of gas and groceries, we are routinely saying, we have built-in inflation raises for you. Would you like to increase the monthly paycheck that you receive? There's room to do so. And even though we test and we model and we show them that they could increase it and it's not going to increase the risk of running out of money, overwhelmingly, we are still hearing people say, no, I'm comfortable on what I'm receiving. So they're absorbing those costs or making trade-offs, but nobody is expressing that they're feeling that pinch.
All right. So, Tim, when someone comes into you and says they're comfortable, how can you ultimately take a step back, stress test that comfort level, and really figure out what, makes them say, you know what, ultimately, maybe we do need to recheck that paycheck when all's said and done?
Well, first, there's several things we can do. But first, what I want to say is it's interesting that Dana said that, because I'm actually hearing kind of the opposite thing from my clients. My clients are really kind of coming, I don't want to say all of them, but I've had a lot of clients that have said, man, have you seen what gas is up to now, and the price of bread and the price of everything, anyway, it doesn't matter. Stuff is more expensive. So I'm actually seeing something different there. What I would say, though, by what she just said, I do have clients that do that, and they're just pinching pennies. They're trying to, if they're getting $63,000 a year between the two of them and any annuities they've got or pensions or any of those kind of things, they're trying to make it work. Even though now gas is $1.50 more a gallon,
right?
And even though now milk is way more expensive and eggs are just ridiculous. Have you bought eggs lately, Kevin?
I have not.
It's ridiculous.
No.
Oh my gosh. Stupid.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like $10 a dozen for decent eggs now.
Oh.
Yeah. At least in the stores here. Anyway. Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. What I would say is, people do need to recheck. I don't want someone to spend more money than they need to and overlive their retirement. But I also don't want someone to underlive their retirement. I don't want someone that worked their entire life and then finally gets to retirement and they are scrimping and scraping and not able to enjoy themselves. And, oh no, we can't drive out to Colorado to see the grandkids because of the price of gas and how much more that's going to cost. We aren't promised tomorrow. Right. So I do agree with her. There are things that we can do to increase your paycheck. That's something that people hear me talk about, is we get the initial gap covered, what we need for your pay right at retirement, and then we can set up plans that you can turn on in the future that will increase your pay. And that is something I work with people a lot, Kevin, in getting them to use that money. So, don't scrimp and scrape by. If you've got these income plans ready to go, if you've got something that can increase your income and inflation makes it to where you need to, let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and let you enjoy that money now, again, because we're not promised tomorrow. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. You worked your whole life to enjoy retirement. I like to help people try to enjoy their retirement.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's exactly what people are doing, is they're scrimping and scraping by. They have to be. Right. We know how much more expensive everything is. They've got to be scraping by. That's the only way they could be doing it. Very rarely do I ever see people's expenses go down in retirement anymore. Used to be that way.
Right.
Nowadays, it's not really. It's very rare that happens, because nowadays people are spending as much and in some cases more in retirement, because, man, we worked 45 years. Now we're going to go to Ireland. Now we're going to take that trip and live in Italy for a month in that Airbnb. And one of my clients literally is going to go live in a castle in Italy for 6 months.
Wow.
And it's like $350 a month. I couldn't believe it. Seriously.
Wow.
Yeah, on Airbnb. Yeah, she showed me. I couldn't believe it. So, to do those kind of things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can scrimp by, you can scrape by. I hear what she's saying, but that's not exactly what I'm seeing. I'm seeing kind of different from my clients, that they need some more money, and I don't want them just pulling it from their emergency stash if they don't have to. If we've got opportunities to, okay, if you're at 63 and we need a little more money, well, we can go ahead and turn one of those on, and that might bump you up to, let's just say, 68. Okay, well, there's that might help. That might do it. That's an extra $5,000 a year. Let's put you in a position where you can enjoy yourself, not have the stress, and be able to enjoy your life moving forward.
800-913-SAFE. Again, it's 800-913-7233. Online anytime. The website, again, is safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com.
It's now time for our Safe Money Story of the Week. Visit safemoneystories.com to view more.
For this week's Safe Money Story of the Week, I want to talk about a gentleman that came in. This was probably about 3.5 weeks ago now, and he was already severely underliving his retirement. He had a pretty decent amount in an IRA. It was actually close to $500,000. So he had plenty of money to work with, but he was literally scraping by. Now, this gentleman was already in his early 70s, had been retired for a few years, was single, he actually was widowed, so he had lost his wife, 10 years ago or so, something like that. But he was scraping by. And I asked him, I'm like, well, are you doing everything that you want to do? Well, no, I'd like to, I think his kids were in North Dakota or some, I don't know, Montana, somewhere out there. I'd like to go spend time out there. I'd like to go a month out there, but I'm just afraid. I don't want to lose, I want to make sure I've got enough money to live the rest of my life. So what we did is I sat down and showed him exactly what we can do. We can get you more guaranteed income so you're not just pulling from a pool of money and praying to God it lasts. I can understand why people are stressed there. And that's where he was. He basically got Social Security and had a pile of money. That's it. So when Social Security wasn't enough, every month he would take some from that pile of money. Well, obviously, as you can imagine, every year that pile of money was going down. So we needed to get that out of that pile of money mentality and get it into guaranteed income mentality. And that's what we did for him. We got him set up with a guaranteed income plan that started immediately. And that plan essentially got him to the income level where he wouldn't have to scrape by anymore. I don't remember exactly what his Social Security was, but it was something like $34,000, but his expenses were $42,000. So literally every year he was having to pull $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 out just to no trips, no nothing. That's just expenses. So we got him the gap. So we got him to the income where he needs to be right now, which actually we got a little bit higher than his expenses. So he would have some extra to go out and do the trips and do the things he wants to. But then we set up those inflation buster plans. We set up those plans like what Dana was just talking about to where he can turn on more income in the future, because there could come a day where gas is $8 a gallon, and you may need more income. Okay, well, if you've got 4 different plans, you can turn one on, but the other 3 are still growing. And then a few years after that, you need some more income. Let's turn another one on, but the other 2 are still growing. So we set up those kind of plans for him. He had the ability to turn on more income in the future, and he still had a nice pot of money for an emergency stash. So he walked out totally happy, ready to go spend time with his kids and enjoy his retirement more. And you could just see the burden lifted off of him when he walked out.
Our first 5 callers from today's show, you line up that time to speak with Tim. He's also going to throw in a complimentary copy of his book. It's called Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233 or online at safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. All right, we'll squeeze in a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We're just getting started on this week's edition of Safe Money Retirement, and we've got a lot more with Tim Wood, the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary, coming up right after this.
Hi, it's Glenn Beck. You've heard me talk about Tim Wood, certified financial fiduciary and owner of Safe Money Retirement for a while now. But what I haven't told you is that he's also a retirement income certified professional. Now, why should you care? Well, maybe you have pre-tax and after-tax retirement accounts, and you need to know how that's going to work. Or maybe you still don't have enough guaranteed lifetime income to cover your monthly bills. Or maybe your entire savings is still exposed to risk. Listen, I met Tim personally, and I can tell you that his team can help you. I want you to write this down, safemoneyretirement.com/Beck. Or call 800-913-SAFE to schedule a no-obligation, free 15-minute discovery call with Tim. You know I don't trust just anyone, so do your own homework on Tim Wood at safemoneyretirement.com/Beck and request a copy of his best-selling book. 800-913-SAFE. safemoneyretirement.com/Beck. Get started today.
It is the Safe Money Retirement Show, and we are happy to have you with us. Alongside Tim Wood, you know him, you listen to him every week. He's the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name's Kevin McAlpin. Hope you are having a fantastic day, and of course, Tim and I appreciate you carving out part of it to spend with us here on the show. 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233 or online at safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. Retirement.com. All right, so Tim, most of our listeners can't see what I'm about to do, but here's what I'm going to show you. This is about what happens to me third to fourth week of March every week. I do this. I just start tearing papers apart. You know what I'm doing right here? That's my bracket.
I know exactly.
That's my bracket for the tournament. Man, that thing was busted after about the fourth game back in the middle of March. But Tim, I bring it up because it is a fun time of year if you're a sports fan. And looking back at the NCAA tournament, we know the pressure on the players is intense, and it only gets more so as the tournament goes on. You have one bad stretch, one bad turnover, Duke, and everything can be out the window like you've worked so hard for all year long. And Tim, isn't that a lot like what people feel like when they get close to retirement? Right? The paychecks stop, you feel that pressure, and obviously it's something that I know that can really lead folks to maybe working a little longer than they ultimately have to, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Pressure gets to everyone. And I mentioned when we were talking earlier in the show about stress and how you need to not have the stress. Now the kids at that school from Durham, they felt a lot of stress and they folded, which, yay. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that people see, and I've got a few things written down here of things that people can do that kind of helps with the stress, right? Because we know we need to get rid of the stress. Again, the kids in the Final Four, they're the age to be stressed. Right. That's fine. That's, when you're 22, that's when you want to do that. When you're 62, 72, 82, not so much.
Right.
That's not the time to be in the Final Four. So first of all, cover the basics. And the basics are you need guaranteed income. That's what the basics are. You need to make sure there's a plan of some kind for long-term care because 70% of people are going to need it. What's the plan? Doesn't mean it has to be a long-term care quote unquote policy. There can be other kinds of plans. Let's make a plan. What's the plan going to be if it happens? What do you want to pass to your beneficiaries? What do we want to make sure that is protected and you don't ever have to worry about dropping if there's a market event? Cover the basics. Let's just make sure that all of the basics are taken care of. And then the second thing I've got written down here is to reduce market pressure. So that kind of goes along with what I was saying. If you are still relying on the market to give you your retirement, for those of you that haven't read my book, you need to, because that's what my dad was doing. And he lost over 75% of their retirement in the first 4 years of their retirement because he was relying on the market, and the market completely failed him. He retired in 2000, people. What do y'all remember the market from 2000 to 2004? I bet if you're listening to this show, I bet you do.
Right.
It was awful. It was awful for him. Reduce that market pressure. Man, when you get to retirement, you don't want to be messing with the market for the most part. Now, occasionally do I find people that find it fun and that's what they want to do in retirement? Go get them.
Yeah.
If that's you, but I still say go get them. That's fine. Have fun. Enjoy it. But you still need to make sure you've got some money put aside that's protected.
Right.
And what I always tell people is about what your age is this is completely rough, but about what your age is about how much you should have in safe money. So if you're 65, about 2/3 of your money-ish should be in something protected. But that still leaves a third you can play with. Even at 80, then still about 20% of your money could be in play money. So you can still have that play money, still be playing the market, still be playing the penny stocks, doing whatever you want to do, but you want to reduce the market pressure. You want to reduce basically you don't want to have money in the market that if you lose it, it's going to devastate your retirement plan. So you need to get rid of that pressure. You also need to manage longevity risk. That's the number one risk people face. People say their biggest fear, there's actually a study, and you can get to it on my website. Just go to safemoneyretirement.com and go to the media tab. There's a study there that was done that shows what's people's biggest fears in retirement. Wasn't health issues, wasn't even dying. It was running out of money before they run out of life.
Right.
The number one biggest fear of retirees nationwide, well, that's longevity risk. That's outliving your money. That's what longevity risk is. How do we manage longevity risk? 2 simple words: guaranteed income. That's it, people. That's how you manage longevity. Does not matter how long you live if you know you're going to have enough income to cover whether you live to 72 or 132. Makes no difference. If you've got enough guaranteed income, good. That takes care of your longevity risk. And then the last thing I've got written down here is to give yourself confidence to spend. And that kind of goes back to the safe money story we were just talking about and underliving your retirement. Let's give you the confidence. I'm telling you, man, if you know you've got this money coming in this month, it's going to make it a lot easier to spend it on something if you know that same money's coming the next month and the month after that and the month after that and literally every month until your heart stops beating. Gives you the ability to spend. It gives you the ability to move forward and enjoy your retirement in the way that you want, based on what you want to do.
It is the Safe Money Retirement Show. He's the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. And folks, he's just a phone call away. He did reference his book. It's called Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. And if you'd like to pick up a complimentary copy of that book and schedule that time to speak with Tim about your finances, about your upcoming retirement, 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233 or online at safemoneyretirement.com. It's safemoneyretirement.com. So, Tim, you gave us the Safe Money story of the week. I want to give you a different type of story here to wrap up the show this week. The story of a woman by the name of Ellen and her brother Arthur. Now, they're in their early 50s and recently inherited $500,000 each from their aunt. So what did they do with the money? Well, Ellen paid off her mortgage, about $280,000. She also did some home renovations, took a big fancy cruise, and did a lot of gifting. 3 years later, Tim, that money was gone. But she does have a lot of equity in her house. Meanwhile, Arthur took that $500,000, paid off credit cards and other high-interest debt, increased contributions to his retirement accounts, and used the rest to fill the gaps. Now, years later, he's still got plenty left. So, Tim, let me ask you, does this line up? Is this sort of typical, one extreme to the other on folks, clients of yours who have inherited money over the years?
100%. And I will say the Ellen, the one that you said first, that just spent all the money, typically that's indicative of a younger person that gets an inheritance. Most people that are younger, they don't see long term. They see, hey, let's pay off the mortgage. Let's do this. Let's go on that trip we've always wanted. I want that new F-150. Let's go get it. Whatever. They do that, and then the money's gone, and that's it. Whereas someone more like Arthur that's looking more long term, I see them do that. But here's what I'll say. I got a couple things I want to say about this. The first thing I will say is people ask me actually quite often. You'd be surprised, Kevin, how many times people say, well, should we use this money and go ahead and pay off the mortgage, for example, or a credit card or whatever? Logically, I say, well, let's look and see what your mortgage is. If your mortgage interest rate is, say, for example, I'm just pulling this number out of nowhere, is 2.5%. Well, I've got plans out there that I can guarantee you make more than 5%. So that's a 2.5% spread in your favor. So why would we want to pay off the mortgage when you can make more money with that money rather than pay off the mortgage? You follow what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that's one thing that we look at. That's the logical thing, is we look to see, can we put it in something that's making more than what the interest is? If so, it might make sense logically. But we've got to look at emotions, because spending tends to follow emotion, not strategy. So what we've got to look at is people's emotions. And what I tell people is, well, are you just wanting the mathematical answer on whether you should pay off that mortgage or invest that money or not? Well, mathematically, yes, you maybe should pay it off or you shouldn't based on what that interest rate is. But what I tell people is, but how do you feel What if you closed your eyes right now and imagined you just paid off your mortgage? How would that make you feel?
It would feel pretty darn good. Yeah.
That's what most people say. Literally, you should see the smiles. They look like the Joker. I mean, they literally just, Okay, well, that may be a little more important than that 2.5% or whatever extra that you would get. If that's going to fill your heart up and you're going to know, I don't have a mortgage anymore. I can retire and that house is mine as long as I pay the taxes every year.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. And I sit down with people, not all the time, but quite often, that did get an inheritance and sit down and say, okay, what makes the most sense? And this is the kind of things that we look at. The two other things that I've got written down real quick, Arthur focused on strengthening his financial foundation. So he actually, looked long-term to see what's going to help me long-term in retirement, whereas Ellen was looking for immediate gratification. She was the one that wanted to give the big gifts and go on the big trips and let's just pay off the mortgage without looking to see what makes the most sense and all of that stuff. And poof, the money was gone. So again, I know I beat this dead horse every single week, but make a plan. Make a plan. Let's sit down and make a plan. The last thing I wrote down here really quick is intentional pacing made the biggest difference for him. We can pace where you want to be and what you want to do when you're not just investing everything in something that you don't have liquidity. So let's figure out, if you get an inheritance, you need to sit down with someone and look long term. What's going to be the best use of this money? You know what? It might be paying off the mortgage. If you got a mortgage recently and you're paying 7, 8, 9, 10%, you better believe we're paying off that mortgage. But if you've got one at 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4%, let's figure it out. Let's sit down and talk about it. So it really depends on the situation.
All you need to do is pick up the phone right now. And yes, we do have teammates standing by to get you on Tim Wood's calendar by dialing 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233 or online anytime. That website, once again, folks, is safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. So, Tim, time flies when we're having fun. It has done that once again here this week. And before we do run out of time, sir, the floor is all yours for the final word.
Thanks, Kevin. I hope everyone enjoyed the show this week. I thought it was fantastic. We did talk about some very important things. We talked about what makes the most sense when you get an inheritance. Well, when that happens, again, you need to sit down with a certified financial fiduciary that can help you make a customized plan long term. So that's very important. The very beginning of the show, we talked about people either not feeling the pinch somehow, or again, in my case, most of them are saying they are feeling the pinch. What can you do for those guaranteed incomes so you're not having to worry about that pinch? But I kind of want to go back to what we talked about just as we came back from break, and that's that pressure. That's that pressure that the kids feel in the tournament. We don't need to feel that kind of pressure as we are in retirement. When you're in retirement, as we talk about all the time, Kevin, you need to have that sense of peace. You need to make sure that you know what's going to happen in your retirement, and that, above all things, is what helps people find their own safe money retirement.
The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Obviously, by contacting us now, you are only taking the first step towards protecting your retirement. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified, licensed insurance professional. It is important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Interest and other guarantees in annuity contracts are subject to the claims-paying ability of the insurance carrier that issued the contract. The tax consequences of annuity income should be considered with the help of a licensed tax professional. Rates and returns mentioned on this program may vary based on state availability and are subject to change without notice.